Hey everyone, today you are going to continue to find the missing measure of interior angles of a triangle, but this time the pictures of the triangles are a little more challenging. And in some of the pictures, I gave you more than enough information to find the missing measures of the angles, and in some diagrams, I did not. And it's going to be your job to use your knowledge of the angles in a triangle and your knowledge of the angle relationship, such as supplementary, complementary, vertical, alternate interior, alternate exterior. You're going to have to use those definitions and those angles to help you find the measure of missing angles. Okay, so I'm going to go through all of the type of questions you will be asked to do on today's assignment in this video, so you'll be well prepared. So let's get started. Here I have a picture of a triangle. Now, this is not just a regular triangle with three angles shown. There's a bunch of different angles shown. And if you see, this large triangle is one triangle in the diagram, but there's also another triangle within this larger triangle. So we got to think outside the box in order to answer these questions. There are three missing angles here, angle X, angle Y, and angle Z. I have to find the measure of all of them. So we're going to start with finding the measure of angle X. The reason why it says what is the M angle X, then M just stands for measure. So this question is asking us to find what is the measure of angle X. Okay, so I'm starting right here. Well, this angle X is in the smaller triangle and the larger triangle. So you guys have to decide which triangle is going to help you first determine the measure of angle X. Now, it's going to be the larger triangle because we know that the measures of the interior angles in a triangle has to add to be 180 degrees. So if we look at this larger triangle here, I'm only missing the one angle. I have this angle 71, this angle 77, and I just don't know the measure of angle X. So I can simply find the measure of angle X by subtracting 180 minus 71 minus 77. Okay, because remember, that's how we found the measure of a missing interior angle of a triangle, because together the three angles have to add to 180 degrees. So when I subtract that, I get 32. So the measure of angle X is 32 degrees. Now, I'm going to fill that in here. I found this first angle, okay? Now, let me just fix this. I now want to find the measure of angle Y. Well, angle Y is in this smaller triangle here. I can find the measure of angle Y because I'm only missing that one angle in this triangle, and I know together they have to add to be 180 degrees. So to find the measure of angle Y, I'm simply going to subtract 180 minus 32 and minus 24, and I get 124 degrees. So the measure of angle Y is 124 degrees. Okay, notice how I had to find angle X before I found angle Y. Ladies and gents, you have to go in the order for most of them that I gave you in this work text box. Okay, don't try to skip around because you're going to have more trouble. Okay, go in the order in which I gave you. All right, last angle we have to find is angle Z. If you look at the diagram here, angle Z is not in a triangle. This is a regular shape, a four-sided shape, not a triangle. It's not in the smaller triangle. It is in the larger triangle, but it's not a vertex angle. So we have to use another type of angle relationship in order to figure out what angle Z is equal to. Well, if we look at angle Y and angle Z are on a straight line here, and they're right next to each other, which makes them supplementary angles. Okay, we know supplementary angles have to add to be 180 degrees. So I know that this angle is already equal to 124 degrees. I can find the measure of angle Z by simply subtracting 180 minus 24, which equals 56. Okay, so the measure of angle Z, I'll fill it in here, is 56 degrees. Oops. Okay, notice how for that angle, we didn't use any knowledge about triangles. We used the supplementary angle relationship. Okay, now we have found all the missing angles. All right, notice how again, guys, you need to go in the order in which I asked you to solve for the missing angles in order to do this accurately. Okay, let's go to the next one. I first need to find the measure of angle X. Okay, well, Angle X is in this triangle, but I don't have any other angles given in this triangle, so I can't use the fact that the interior angles of a triangle equal 180 degrees. Yes, that's true, but it's not going to help me here. But I did tell you that this angle right here is equal to 59 degrees. Well, this 59-degree angle and angle X here are supplementary angles. They are on the straight line and they're right next to each other. Again, we know supplementary angles have to add to be 180 degrees. So I can find the measure of angle X by simply subtracting 180 minus 59. And 180 minus 59 is 121. So angle X has to equal 121 degrees. Okay, now we want to find the measure of angle Y. Again, angle Y is in this triangle. However, I can't use the fact that interior angles have to equal 180 degrees yet because I only have one angle. I need at least two to use that fact. But again, I gave you this angle right here, this 151-degree angle. This 151-degree angle and angle Y are also supplementary because they are on a straight line. So together they have to add to be 180 degrees. So I can find the measure of angle Y by subtracting 180 minus 151, which gives us 29. So the measure of angle Y is equal to 29 degrees. Okay, last but not least, I got to find the angle Z. Well, angle Z is in that triangle. I now have two measures of the other interior angles of the triangle, so I can use the fact that interior angles of a triangle have to equal or have to add up to be 180 degrees. I can use that fact. I already know two of the angles, so I can simply subtract 180 minus 121 minus 29, which gives us 30. So that means that the measure of angle Z has to equal 30 degrees. Okay, next one. Only got to find one angle in this diagram. Notice how this angle X is in this triangle, but I didn't give you the measures of these two angles. So again, sometimes I'm going to give you enough information to figure it out right off the bat. Other times you're going to have to use your knowledge of other types of angle relationships to figure out the measure of the angle. So in order to figure out angle X here, I'm going to have to use the fact that the measure of all interior angles of triangles have to add up to be 180 degrees. In order to do that, I got to find out the measure of this angle here and this angle here. I'm going to use my supplementary angle fact. This angle right here and this 142-degree angle are supplementary because they're right next to each other and they're on a straight line. So I can find out the measure of this angle by simply subtracting 180 minus 142. 180 minus 142 is equal to 38. So that means that the measure of this angle right here has to equal 38 degrees. Okay. Now I can find the measure of this angle as well, also by using a supplementary angle fact, because this angle inside the triangle and this angle outside the triangle are also supplementary because they are on a straight line and they're right next to each other. So I can find the measure of that angle by subtracting 180 minus 70, and 180 minus 70 gives us 110. So the measure of this angle right here has to be equal to 110 degrees. Since I now know the measure of these two angles in the triangle, I can find the measure of angle X by using the fact that the interior angles of a triangle have to add up to be 180 degrees. So I can subtract 180 minus 110 minus 38, which gives us 32. So that tells us that the measure of angle X has to equal 32 degrees. Okay, next one. We only have to find the measure of angle X in this triangle. Notice how there's a larger triangle here and a smaller triangle here. But we're going to use the triangle that's going to get us to the answer the fastest. And there's different ways to go about doing this, but I'm trying to figure out or use the most efficient way. So there's not enough information in this diagram to find out angle X right off the bat. We're going to have to find the measure of another angle. I'm going to find out the measure of this angle right here because this angle X is in this larger triangle. If I find out the measure of this angle here, I can simply use the fact that the measure of all interior angles of a triangle have to add up to be 180 degrees. So I have enough information to find out the measure of this angle because I gave you this angle outside the triangle. This 120-degree angle and this angle inside the triangle are supplementary angles, so together they have to add up to be 180 degrees. So I can subtract 180 minus 120, which gives me 60. That tells me that the measure of that angle in the triangle is equal to 60 degrees. Using that information, I can now simply find out the measure of angle x by simply subtracting 180 minus 87 and minus 60. Okay, which gives us 33. So that tells me that the measure of angle x is equal to 33 degrees. Okay, last but not least, 3 angles we have to find the measure of in this diagram. I'm going to start with angle W because that's the simplest one here. This angle W is in this triangle right here. I know that the measures of these 3 angles have to add up to be 180 degrees, and I already gave you 2 of the measures, so I can simply find that missing angle by subtracting 180 minus 40 minus 87. And when we subtract that, we get 53. So the measure of angle W is equal to 53 degrees. Okay, I am now going to look for the measure of angle x. Angle x is not inside of a triangle here, so I can't use my interior angle of a triangle rule. But if you notice, angle W and angle x are supplementary angles. They are on this straight line right here. I know supplementary angles have to add up to be 180 degrees, and I just found the measure of angle W, so I can find the measure of angle x by subtracting 180 minus 53. When I do that, I get 127. So that tells me that angle x has to equal 127 degrees because of my supplementary angle rule. Okay, I now need to find the measure of angle y. Well, angle y is in this triangle right here. I can't use any other angle relationship other than the fact that the interior angles of a triangle have to equal 180 degrees. But I, again, don't have 2 angles in order to use that fact. I'm missing this corner angle right here. But I can simply find the measure of this angle. If we notice, angle W and this angle right here are vertical angles. Here are your 2 parallel lines. They're not extended in both directions, but here are your 2 parallel lines that are cut by this transversal, and they're formed by these 2 intersecting lines here. Okay, remember vertical angles are formed by 2 intersecting lines and they're across from each other. So here are your 2 intersecting lines. Angle W and this angle right here are across from each other, making them vertical angles, which makes them equal. So although it's not labeled, this corner angle also equals 53 degrees. Okay, didn't even have to do any math there. So I can now find the measure of angle Y because I know that these 3 angles have to add up to be 180, and I'm only missing one of them, so I can simply subtract 180 minus 53 minus 86. Oops. And when we do that, we get 41. So I now know that the measure of angle Y has to equal 41 degrees. Okay, guys, you're now going to complete the interior angles of a triangle challenge assignment. Use this video to help you. And again, you must go in the order that I wrote in this text box. Do not try to skip around with the angles. I put it in this order for a reason. It is the most straightforward way to find the measure of these missing angles. Okay, as always, if you have a question, please ask.